Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today, we will be traveling to the city of Lublin in eastern Poland to meet with Ziemowit Karłowicz from Theater NN, a cultural institution which safeguards the memory of the city's Jewish population, which flourished for centuries before Germany invaded Poland in 1939 and murdered almost all of the Polish Jews. There are many aspects about preserving a history and commemorating the victims of the Holocaust, and one way I find really effective is through personal stories. And in recent years, there's a story of a 9-year-old victim of the Holocaust that really touched a lot of people's heartstrings, and I was wondering if you can tell us about his story.
Well, his name was Henio Żytomirski. Henio, or Chaim, was an ordinary boy. His father was, a teacher in a Polish school. And part of the family, Henio's family, went to Palestine to create Israel. And Henio's father, he was sending them letters with photographs of Henio.
Sure.
And he was very fond of his son. He was always describing he will be a true man.
Right.
He was dressing Henio as a king on Henio's birthday and so on. He was writing about how Henio learned how to ride a bike and so on. Big bike with 2 wheels and so on. On the last photograph he ever sent to his family, Henio is 6 years old and he's going to the school for the first time on the September the 1st, 1913.
Oh.
This was the day the war broke out. Henio never went to true school. Henio was put to a ghetto when he suffered famine and diseases. Later he probably escaped. His father was writing that we are with Henio, telling the rest of the family that he's only with Henio, and the rest of his family probably died. Later, he wrote, "I'm alone." Henio was captured by Germans and murdered in Majdanek concentration camp. And right now we are telling his story, longer version, of course, that I told you, to Polish school children. And we are asking them, please, now you know the story of Henio. How he died, for what he died, no, for what he did, what good he did when he was 9 years old, but for who he was. Now, when you know this story, please write a letter to that boy. Show him how you feel about his story. And these letters are one of the most touching, heartwarming things I ever read in my life. Because these children that are sometimes on the same age he was when he died, they sometimes are writing, with shaky hand and so on. They can't write properly, so they are drawing flowers, hearts. This is me and Henio sitting in the lake near Lublin. This is me and Henio. I'm showing him my video games. They are writing. I know that we would be friends if not what happened to you. These letters, we just know that these children will never allow such atrocity to happen ever again.
You were telling me that it was just him and his father at the end. I was wondering what happened to his dad then?
Well, we don't really know because his father wrote last of his letters to family in Palestine in 1944. And he just told that I'm alone, without Henio. And this was 1944, and the Red Army was practically on the gates of Poland. And if father of Henio would survive just a few months more, he would probably survive the war and probably go to Palestine to his family. But something happened, we don't know what, and he never made it.
The letter stopped.
Letters stopped and he never showed again in any files or any documents. We just don't know what happened to him. One of the many victims of the Holocaust.
Right. So you were telling me that the children were sending the letters to the boy, and there were some sort of project going on that helped facilitate that?
Yes, we have workshops in schools. We are telling this on lessons, but we also are putting just post box in the place when the last photograph of Henio was taken in Krakowskie Przedmieście Street, near one of the banks. And people can write their own letters. You see, sometimes we have people that 10 years ago were children and they were learning about Henio and they wrote the first letter, and right now they are coming back and they are writing another letter 10 years after that. We have some people who are writing letters every single year from since 10 years.
Yeah.
And we also have some ordinary passersby that are coming to our post box and they are writing on the spot their letters and they are putting this into this box.
The final liquidation of the ghetto in Majdan Tatarsky in Lublin took place on November 9th, 1942. Henio was one of the 3,000 Jews sent to Majdanek concentration and extermination camp. As all children and elderly, Henio was sent straight to the gas chambers on arrival. Less is known about the fate of his father.
So after the heartbreaking story of Henio, I was hoping that we can maybe go into the stories of some individual that actually survived the Holocaust.
Well, I can tell you about, two people, two men. First of them was Toivi Blat. He was a young man, a teenager, when he was captured by Germans and he fell into their hands and he was put into Sobibor death camp. But he was one of these chosen people who were not being murdered right away. He was chosen by Germans to do some work for the crew of the death camp, for the SS soldiers, German soldiers, and Ukrainian auxiliary soldiers. But he was one of the few that actually created a resistance in this death camp, and they finally managed to create a uprising, make a uprising. They fought, they killed some of the SS soldiers, took their weapons, shot the guards, and they managed to escape, to free themselves. About 150 of them escaped, but they were chased by Germans, and most of them were recaptured and murdered. But Toivi Blat actually survived. He was one of the few, and he survived. And he came to our institution, to Grodzka Gate Institute, and he told his story. He had a panel, and he was speaking in perfect Polish. He was speaking of the things he survived. Also, the other history is also very well touching. This is the story of a man who was the great representative of both of Polish and Jewish nations. He's still alive. His name is Jakub Wexler Waszkinel, and he was a very small child, and during the time of Second World War, and his Jewish mother learned about the Holocaust, the death that was coming for her, and she took her very young son to a Polish woman, and she told her, "Please save the life of this boy. He will become priest of your faith, but please save him. Never tell him that he's adopted. Let him feel your love. Please save him." And that Polish lady actually took that boy, and she raised that boy as her own child. And she never told him that he is not her son. He, by some fantastic tide of events, he actually became a Catholic priest because his adopted mother, she was very religious. And he was teaching on my university, Catholic University of Lublin. He was 40 years old when he finally learned that he's adopted. This was a shock for him because he was a Catholic priest, but he decided to embrace both his ancestry, Jewish ancestry and Polish ancestry. Mm-hmm. He was teaching the connections between our religions, our cultures, Christianity and Judaism, and well, he was an example of two cultures in one man, son of two cultures.